When we introduced Grow, Change, or Die in New York City in 2003 and discussed it in Chicago in 2004, I knew that everything in our strategy came from what we saw happening in the field, what some of you were doing already and what some of you were planning. Still, it came as something of a shock, or so I've heard from a few hundred of you. We have spent the last 4 years working through the challenges of Grow, Change, or Die, choosing to do some things and choosing to not do others. And you have done a remarkable job. There are now things happening in the industry that might not have been outside the realm of the imaginable in 2003, but that were certainly outside the scope of acceptable CDFI industry conversation. Talking about business partnerships that are not simply philanthropic or informal relationships among CDFIs and between CDFIs and mainstream financial partners. Some with CDFIs in the lead roles, and some with our partners in the lead roles. There are new CDFI-based social enterprises serving not just CDFI markets, but mainstream markets. There's a set of anti-predatory mortgage approaches, including, but not limited to, OFNs, that are both addressing a current crisis and carving out a new financing model with potential in many asset classes. And we've launched a unified policy campaign that rests on the belief that what we are doing matters to the nation and the economy, a far cry from our timid, almost apologetic approaches not very long ago. We are putting in place a multiplayer financing system that draws on diverse stores of talent across our network, including familiar and unfamiliar partners. We are using collaborative business models that create opportunities for CDFI productivity that swamp what we used to think just a few years ago was possible. You know, when we won passage of the statute that created the CDFI fund, we thought of ourselves as the little industry that could. If YouTube had been around then, we would have been the teenagers at home making 3-minute videos on our parents' webcams hoping to generate a little internet buzz. But today we're a $25 billion industry that mainstream institutions and the communities we serve cannot help but notice. And because of your hard work and your ability to tell your story, the CDFI fund has not only survived against the odds these past 7 years, it has thrived. And in fiscal 2008, if Congress gets its way, funding for the CDFI fund will nearly double. We are no longer YouTube wannabes. Perhaps a better business analogy is the independent film industry. Independent filmmakers have changed the course of the mainstream movie business for the better by creating opportunities for new talent, by reshaping the film distribution system, and by introducing ideas and values that never used to see the light of day. The indie film business took advantage of new technologies that changed the economics of filmmaking and opened rich distribution veins starving for product. So what do you say, indie finance? I think it's what's next. One of the things that Grow, Change, or Die stirred up was and is anxiety about whether the changes OFN was proposing, things like scale, just to pick one, would result in changes to our core. It is time to put those anxieties behind us and focus on the challenge ahead, the challenge of next, which has 3 components that I can see. The first is accepting that the opportunity finance industry has the potential and power to transform the economy, the policies, and the society in which we work. For years now, we have been wary of our capacity to grow and our ability to produce. We have questioned our ability to shape policy. Our DNA seems to reject anything that might seem anywhere close to irrationally exuberant, to borrow a phrase. But our 30-year history suggests that we are resilient, creative, and innovative. If you look at our production in 5-year cycles, each 5-year span exceeds projections by leaps and bounds. This self-doubt simply has to go. How many years do we have to overachieve in financing, in policy, and in civic leadership roles before we take ourselves seriously? How long do you think we can keep a $25 billion industry hidden in plain sight? Martin Trimble, my predecessor in this job, used to talk about the need for institutional ego, the conviction that other people should think your work is as important as you believe it to be. That's a very hard thing for people in this industry, it seems. We need to understand that institutional ego does not presume individual ego. It is not only okay to promote the work your organization does, it is essential that you do. Individual ego may not be in our DNA, but institutional ego is. The second and related challenge is believing that the changes you are seeing are real and they're lasting. It's tempting and it's easy to lean on the past when the present seems uncertain and the future is unknown. William Faulkner wrote, this is one of my favorite quotes, William Faulkner wrote that memory believes before knowing remembers. Memory believes before knowing remembers. Strategy is fundamentally an exercise in deciding when to hold on and when to let go, and that usually involves overcoming the impulse to embrace what is familiar and convenient rather than what we see and know. The opportunity finance industry today is rapidly transforming into a network of financing systems that work across boundaries that used to keep us isolated from one another. OFN Next is a small part of the emerging opportunity finance system that you can see all around this room and throughout this conference.